सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.
Bare Knuckle Bhakti presents The Gift of Desperation, a Bhakti recovery podcast. This is a 12-step based Bhakti-oriented space. Here we share our experience, strength, and hope in the spirit of recovery from addictions and associated behaviors. Welcome. Well, hello and good morning, Miss Sherry Sutton. Look what I have here.
Good
Hi.
morning.
Good morning. I have a wonderful human being here on the podcast. Her name is Sherry Sutton. She is a business coach and trainer. She is a marketing mentor and a recovering alcoholic. And she has brushed shoulders with the best of us bhaktis and the worst, which is me. No, I'm only kidding. I just think she's like just one of the most interesting people that I've come across in a long time. She's colorful, she's beautiful, she's bright, she's bubbly, and I just am really looking forward to listening to her, to hearing her story and chewing on some sobriety here. So
Awesome.
hi,
Yeah,
Sherry.
I mean, none of it's possible without sobriety, right?
Yes.
I write that every single day on my gratitude list. Like, none of this is possible without sobriety.
It's so true. It's so true. So what brought you, what happened? What brought you to sobriety in the first place?
Yeah. So, it's an interesting story. I've always been an alcoholic. I just didn't know it. There's a definition of alcoholism, which says that if one, when you start drinking, you can't stop, and two, when you try to stop, you can't, then you're probably an alcoholic. Well, for me, the once you start, you can't stop was always the case. Always, always, always. From the minute I had my first drink, had one, and I was going to keep going until I was out or passed out, right? And that was the case for me my whole life. And I thought it was normal. Honestly, until I got into sobriety, I did not really realize that people did not drink to the point of blackout. I thought that it was normal that every single time you drank that you blacked out, because I always did my whole drinking career. And it didn't really, it was always a little problematic. I never had DUIs, but I always put myself in bad situations, right? And I'm getting it funny and not funny, right?
Yeah,
Dangerous situations, right?
Of course.
Been attacked, been, abused, been, just not know where, and sometimes you don't even know what happened, right? Or you don't remember for years later because, you let yourself be in a bar where you got roofied. And so, when you drink to the point of blackout, you lose so much of your life, right? But I really genuinely just thought it was normal. So it wasn't a big problem, right? In the sense of I just looked like a normal drinker, right? And I've always been a very perky personality. I was very sick in my 20s, but I was developing a career in marketing. I was on the outside for the most part, totally normal. Except
would you say you were like a party girl?
Yeah, I was just kind of the party girl, right? Like I was in marketing, so a lot of trade shows, right? So, you would go to another city and you would be with all your coworkers and you would work all day and then party all night. And that was the shtick, right?
Yeah.
I think my alcoholism, the mental part of the alcoholism, right? The selfishness, the self-centeredness, the constant fear of not fitting in and needing to manipulate other people in order to get what you needed inside because you felt so empty, right? That's the reason why I drank, was to escape that. But that piece was
sort of like alcoholism turned inside out is codependency.
Yeah, for sure. It's either codependency or control, right?
Which is codependency, isn't it? Is it not?
It is a
And
little, it is, right? It's if you act a certain way, I'm going to feel a certain way,
right.
right?
And then
I
it's
feel
their fault.
right. I feel uncomfortable. And because I feel uncomfortable, I need you to do something to fix me.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And it doesn't, like, nothing anyone is going to do is going to work, right? They're always going to disappoint you. And that
Right.
manifested itself really in all areas of my life. I didn't really understand it until I got sober and looked at my own behavior. And, I never felt good enough. I never felt like I fit in. I still don't feel like I fit in, but I at least understand that that's just my broken brain.
Yeah.
Telling me that I don't fit in. And I can blame my alcoholic father, I can blame my bipolar mother, I can, but really, for whatever reason, I just showed up on this planet in this lifetime with this never ending constant fear that I don't fit in.
Wow.
And because of that, I was either drinking to sort of get away from that from that fear, or just sort of getting to a place in my life where things were going good, and then I'd like blow it up because you weren't doing it the way I wanted you to, or this company won't do it right, and if they only listen to me.
Oh my God, Sherry, I think this is, this is funny because we think we're special, but this is like the shared thing that every alcoholic and addict has, is it not? And even normal people who we think we don't fit in with have the same thing. They just don't admit it.
Right. Well, their ass isn't on the line like it is with us. Do we swear in this
Right.
podcast?
You can do whatever you want in this podcast. I
Um,
mean, to a point.
right.
Yeah.
No, I'm like, and you're a classic alcoholic. Like, how far can I push these boundaries? You gave me
I'm
a very
thinking
squishy boundary, and I'm gonna push
you're,
it.
you're not a punk rocker, are you? Do you know anything about punk rock?
I do. I'm a little
You
bit, a
do?
little bit.
Okay, well, when I said that, and I was thinking, and my head went to Gigi Allen. I'm not going to tell you who it is. Anyone who knows who Gigi Allen is will know exactly what I'm talking about. After the show, I want you to look up Gigi Allen. But anyway, go ahead. Okay.
Um, so I always felt awkward, but I never stayed in situations for long, right? I always thought it was your fault. I had never really allowed my life to get any real momentum, right? I got married and divorced many times, right? I went through
Mm.
many, many jobs. And, if you now can look back and see the pattern, right? But at the time I didn't really understand it. And my
And what was that
drinking,
pattern for you? What was that pattern for you? Like, what was it that kept you showing up to the same situation over and over and expecting different results?
yeah.
Especially in that area, relationships and work. What was that pattern for you? And how did you find that pattern?
Yeah. The underlying, all of our behavior is created from fear or from love. All of it. Everything can be melted down to fear or love. But I came out of the womb full of fear.
Mm.
And so I didn't realize that it was my own problem, that I was the one that had to say, look, I'm afraid right now, but it's okay, right? If I trust other people, if I'm willing to allow
That's so
myself to be
scary.
coachable, if I
Mm.
don't, I felt so uncomfortable all the time that it came out as I'm uncomfortable and it's your job to fix me. Right.
Oh yeah.
And I was
Oh
taught that
yeah.
from an early age. My dad was an alcoholic.
Mm.
My mom was a like textbook codependent, bipolar, right? Like, it is your
Al-Anon, yeah.
job to make me happy, and you're an alcoholic, and I'm not happy, and everything is your fault. And so I grew up in that, right? But I took that on. And so I always thought that it was other people's responsibility to make me feel good, because I always felt
Mm.
icky and scared. And I think that that's the fundamental underlying thing that happened with me in my life. It was either like, you guys are a bunch of jerks and don't know how valuable I am, and so I'm going to go someplace else where I'm valued, right?
That's right.
Which is really just an underlying fear of, oh God, I'm not really doing a good job, right?
Oh my goodness. Yes, I've went through the same pattern. And that's why I'm asking, because like I'm just starting to uncover that for myself. So I want to like compare notes now, like in my own inner notes. I want to hear your story and I want to like listen to like how maybe I've done the same thing, you know,
Yeah,
job
and
after
it's
job, guy after guy, you know, situation after situation, country after country, city after city, you know, in the
yeah, and like
pursuit of
no matter where you go, there you are.
right,
Right. And
right.
that problem's going to follow you. And I really did not understand until I went through, until I went through the 12 steps. And there's something in the 12 steps called a fearless moral inventory. And
Mm.
I wrote about this. I have a best-selling book where I shared my sobriety journey. And in
What? You have a best-selling book?
it, yeah. And so
Sherry,
it's
I didn't even know this. Hey, what is it? What's the title? Say
It's
it
called
now.
Journey to Myself, and it's an anthology. It's available on Amazon, and it's an anthology of people who share kind of their dark nights of the soul.
Oh
And
my
the
God.
chapter title is Hello, my name is Sherry, and I'm a recovering asshole. And at the beginning of it, I tell the story of how I was on the phone with one of my sobriety sisters. We call each other, we're litter mates, right? We came in at the same time and we had the same sponsor. And so we're going through the steps at the same time. And we're both at home doing our fourth step, right? And we were like texting each other, like, okay, we're going to do it today. We're going to do the fourth column today. Anybody who's been through it, there's something called the fourth column. You do all these columns of different things. And so all the first three columns are how people pissed you off. And you're like, yes, I hate these people. And then the fourth column is
It's
what
like,
is your
God in it. Yeah,
role
what's
in
my,
this? And you're like,
yeah, what's my part? Mm.
screw you. I have no
Yeah.
role. Do you
Well, my
understand
part
that?
is only reacting because you're such a jerk. I had to do this. If you
Right.
weren't like this, I wouldn't have done that.
Right. So I'm
Yeah.
writing, I'm writing out this out and I'm writing my part. And I had this huge realization of like, oh my God, I'm the asshole. Right. One of
Yeah.
my favorite sayings in recovery is if you meet,
I know what you're gonna say.
yeah,
If you meet more than 3 assholes in one day,
you're the asshole.
look in the mirror.
Right. And so
Yeah.
it's like, I really didn't see it. I just knew that I kept getting into bad relationships with people. And it was just me, it was me being constantly fearful. It was me saying, oh my God, I can't be by myself. Oh my God, I need somebody to fix this. I don't care what they look like, I don't care what they look like, what they sound like. Like, I don't care if I have this deep inner knowing that this isn't right. But for right now, it's the only thing that makes me feel somewhat normal because I always have had this unrelenting fear of not fitting in. But then I manifested that by leaving these situations and constantly blowing up my life, right? So what happened so that was sort of just this pattern in my life. So I'm on my third divorce.
I'm on my
Almost.
third. I love how you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
And you're in the right place when I had an old timer say that to me. I was like very early in sobriety and I was going to do an amends with my second husband, who,
Oh,
poor
those are
guy.
so hard. Those are so hard. The ex-husband amends are so hard. They're
Well,
so
then
brutal.
this poor guy, I don't know if he'll never listen to this, but I had gotten back together with him after number 3 broke up and like just in the middle of my alcoholism, like ran that man through the ringer, like a wood chipper emotionally. It was awful. So I'm a couple months into sobriety and I'm at the Texas, I live in Texas, and I'm at the Texas State Convention. And this old timer says to me, I'm like, oh my God, I have to go do my amends with my second husband. And, I've got a third husband and I'm so ashamed. And he just looked at me and goes, honey, you got 3 spouses and you're in the right spot. You're in the right place, honey. Don't worry. Just keep coming back.
Oh, I love it.
So I'm on my third divorce. And, really before that, my drinking had started to escalate. I had left the corporate world to really follow my passion as a photographer. I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Photography was this God-given skill. and I had an opportunity to take a layoff. I left corporate America. And when I did that, I found this opportunity to become really authentic in a way that I never had, right? I had always sort of secretly been like the hippie yogi who wanted to have bright colored hair and wear big earrings and, all that stuff. But I couldn't do it in the corporate world, especially my last job. I worked at a chemical company, right? And so it was like gray and beige suits every day.
Ugh, how
And
boring. Sorry. I'm sorry
know.
about that. I'm really
know.
sorry about that.
I have a great photograph of me before, like in my last couple months at that job, and then like my headshot from a couple years ago, and it's like it literally looks like a totally different person. Just the energetically, it's a
Wow.
totally different person. So I had
Wow.
left this I'd left my corporate job and I had started this business and I started to really embrace my authenticity. And I started really like, okay, what do I want to wear? What color do I want my hair to be? And I traded in the Volvo and I got a Mini Cooper and I started wearing like bright colored vintage dresses instead of the beige suits. And I dyed my hair bright red and, like even redder than it is now. And my poor ex-husband was like, who
Are you?
you? Like, who took my wife and replaced her with this crazy person? Now, anyone who's known me my whole life is like, oh, yeah, that's just you. Like, oh,
Right.
Sherry's finally getting a chance to become Sherry.
Right.
But I had
Right.
sold him because of my codependence, because of my fear. I had
You
sold
sold
him the
him the
version.
beige suit. The beige suit. You sold him the beige suit.
I sold him the beige suit, and it's not his fault. Now, how he reacted is his fault, but that's for his
Yes.
column and not mine. But I sold him the beige suit. And, I started to find this new authenticity and I started to feel like I was finally inhabiting sort of my personality and my business for the first time. And I was getting really successful and he hated it. And so everything at home went really bad. Then I had just had a baby. So I'm like, I have a 2-year-old and my mom dies
Oh my goodness.
suddenly.
That's really hard.
So, and my dad had passed away before that,
Were
but
you sober at that time or not yet?
no. I wasn't sober. I
Okay.
was like, but I was like, the weekend drinker.
Party drinker. Yeah.
Right. I loved at the time I was going back and forth to Belgium every other week. I should have known that I was starting a drinking problem at that point. I mean, I was always the binge drinker, but when I would go to Belgium, I was so excited because they'd have wine at lunch. I was like, oh my God, can I please move to Belgium? Because they would but again, I would, they would have one glass of wine and like, well, certainly at dinner, right? I would be like, order me another bottle, right? I always drank more than everybody else.
Mm.
So my mom dies. I'm in this my marriage very quickly turned pretty toxic on both sides. And I start drinking becomes a daily necessity. So now I'm drinking every day, but it's still kind of just at night after work. I'm still keeping everything together. And
It's like the bottle of wine at night, right? The bottle of
right. I was at like one bottle, maybe a little under a bottle, right? Maybe two
But
bottles.
that's a lot. I mean, people think like that's tons actually, if you think about it. A freaking bottle. It's supposed to be for a family and a table, and then you're down in it every night. That's a lot.
A lot. And so, but
Was it white or red?
I can't make it through the evening without it, right? Especially with as toxic as our relationship had turned and a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, it was a lot. So all excuses, but that's how I handled it, right? And my fear of not fitting in was manifesting itself before my eyes because I was working on becoming my authentic self and was getting rejected by the man who was supposed to be, my
The
partner.
love of your life. Yeah.
Right. So we decided that the best thing to do is move.
Of course, geographicals work.
Geographicals totally work. That's sarcasm for anyone who isn't.
Yeah, please.
Over the audio. And so we moved to Texas. We had met in Austin. We were then living in Jersey. And then we moved. We said, his company was willing to move him to Dallas, making the same amount of money, which is a lot more money in Dallas than it was there. And so we moved to Dallas, Texas.
Sure.
And we decide that I'm
Yeah.
going to maybe do some photography on the side, but what he really wanted was I'd sold him the beige suit girl. He kind of, let's try to find a compromise with the beige suit girl. Like just,
Yes.
wear the beige suits during the day. And if you need to go
Wear
do
some
the
funny
photography
glasses, but
thing,
that's it.
right. If you need to do this photography thing on the weekends, hold it down to the weekends, right? And we're gonna buy the big house and we're gonna do the Dallas, Texas thing. And that lasted about a month.
The delivery on that one was good. The delivery was good.
Yeah. So it lasted a month and I cracked. I just cracked because the minute we moved here, so we didn't move into the big house right away. We moved into an apartment. It was kind of outside of town. And I didn't, it was like, what have I done? And
Mm.
I started I started drinking dusk till dawn, right? Because he's gone now. I'm in this apartment by myself. I know no one. I've left my business back in Jersey. I've left all my friends back in Jersey. I don't know a single soul. My husband's gone Monday through Thursday because he traveled for work. And I lost my mind. I just lost my mind and I started drinking all day long.
Oh my goodness.
So it only took truly about 6 weeks and an intervention from one of my family members who was like, this is out of control. You are in a toxic relationship. Like, not about my drinking, but just about his, behavior, like just could see how toxic it was between us. So we broke up. He starts dating, I start dating, we're still living together.
Oh, that's difficult.
Oh, it was awful. And so we're going to wait for the house to be built. And so anyway, we do this for a couple months and then we decide the house is built and it's beautiful. And it's really pretty. And it had really nice granite countertops and, it's really pretty. And so we decided, let's give it one more shot because of the house. The house is going to make us happy because it's really pretty and big. And, it's Texas. So like there are these McMansions, right? And that lasted we made it about 4 months, but there were like the drinking was still dusk to dawn. I tried to keep it under control sometimes, but then like all of the neighbors, we would start making friends in the neighborhood and I'd inevitably drink too much. And then because things aren't great between us, we get in a fight and I'd be like the screaming maniac on the lawn. That was awesome. And then finally he's like, I can't take this for all the reasons, right?
Sure.
And so now I'm living on my own.
In the house?
Huh?
In the house?
No. So I moved, well, we had an in-law suite. I did live in the house for a little while.
Okay.
I moved into the in-law suite for about a month and then I was like, I'm out of here. I can't do this.
Right.
I had gone to Nepal. Actually, I volunteer with a company called Blink Now in Nepal. And
Okay.
I wasn't drinking and I got a little bit of clarity in my head and was like, I need to get out of this house. I need to really, I went to temples and just prayed and got blessed at temples and was just like, okay, I gotta get out of this house. So came home, got my own place. And within this, so this was October and it was on. I mean, I'm by myself. I've only got my son half the time. I've got a 3-year-old at this point. I've got my son half the time. It is on. So I'm drinking everything. I'm fucking everything. I'm spending every dime that I have. I'm just out of control. I'm working a little bit, but not really, right? And I remember it was New Year's Eve and I bought myself a case of wine because they're on sale and it's on sale, so you have to get it. And I was like, oh, this is going to last me 6 months. Like, it's going to be great, right? Because I really only drink when I take bottles to like friends' houses or whatever, right? This is going to be great. And it was gone within a week, maybe 2.
Whoa.
Along with the big handle of vodka and I was like,
oh, so you're getting into spirits then as well, like
Oh yeah. And so yeah, it was a bottle of wine, at least one, probably two, plus vodka afterwards, plus, you have to have a little aperitif afterwards, right? A little
Yeah,
cella or
of
something,
course.
right? Settle the stomach. And this was every day, right? And it's out of control. And so I'm like, just everything's a blur. That whole 6 months, everything's a blur.
Mm,
So my last drunk, it was New Year's Eve, or no, I'm sorry, it was St. Patty's Day. And I went
St.
out with,
Patty's Day.
mhm.
What a good day to be sober. Like you're sober clean. Your sober day is St. Patty's Day. How cool is that?
I know.
It's like everybody's drinking. You're like, yeah, I'm sober.
Exactly, exactly. So some years, every year is different when you're sober and you get to your sober birthday, right? Sometimes you're like,
Yeah.
yes, and sometimes you're like, oh, the shame. The shame comes back.
Yeah, it's true, especially when, there's family members involved. I think that shame is pretty real. For
Yeah.
me at least. In my story, it was, as soon as I took other people down in the path of my destruction, you know, especially not intentionally, of course, but it's what happened. And owning that and
Yeah.
making amends and trying to move forward in that is it's painful and embarrassing and shameful.
It's shameful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had my last drunk, pass out on the sidewalk, all the things, and was like the next
All
day,
the things. I love that. All
I
the things.
I cannot I, I'm in trouble. Like I am in
Mm.
trouble. Like I am 40, whatever, early 40s. I can't remember how old I was. And like this is out of control. I'm driving drunk. I'm like on the phone with my boyfriend at the time who's like, pull over, you're gonna kill someone. I'm like, fuck you. Like it was like I'm like, who is this person? Right. I had just turned it into a totally different person. And so that was on Saturday. On Monday, I'm Googling on, am I an alcoholic? Right. And I'm taking all the tests and they're all saying yes. And I'm like,
And you're
okay,
like, well, wait a second, let me find that one test that says no.
yeah, right.
Will the 10th one say no?
Right, exactly. And I went over to Facebook and one of my yoga teachers from New Jersey posted that she was 90 days sober.
Oh, wow.
And I had never known anybody who was sober. I had met one person, in a couple months before actually, which was really interesting. I think he had been 10 years sober. And so I saw one person, I'd met one person who was sober. I never knew anybody who was sober. And she posted that she was 90 days sober. And I DM'd her and I said, I'm in trouble. What do I do? She said, go to a meeting, go to a 12-step meeting. And I found one down the street. I went to the 5:30 meeting and I've been sober ever since.
Wow. Wow.
But man, like that's when the reckoning starts, where you just started you just talked about that. Like now, like you have to rebuild a life, and you have to rebuild a life that is centered around personal accountability.
Oh, there we go. There's a painful process.
It's a painful process still.
It
Like,
is. And it really is. And also striving for like absolute radical responsibility. I mean, at least that's what I do. And almost sometimes to my detriment. But I do believe that no stone should be unturned. And the reason why I believe that is because I've experienced tripping over that frickin' stone 100 times because I didn't turn it over early in my recovery or earlier. So, yeah.
yeah, one of my sponsors said that, that stone is going to keep showing up in your path and it's just going to get
Mhm.
bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
It is.
Until you're ready to look at it, right? Until I was ready to look at my own fear of not fitting in and be willing to say, I feel weird and uncomfortable all the time, and I'm going to show up anyway, and I'm going to take radical responsibility for my side of that, and I'm not going to be a jerk, and I'm going to, be vulnerable, and I'm going to live my life with full integrity, and this is the number one. I am not going to blame you for me not feeling good, and I'm not going to expect you to make me
To
feel good.
fix it. Absolutely. What a great place to be. How was it higher power like for you when you first, like when I got in the program, I mean, I was not raised in any religion at all. So that was kind of I had a lot of shame around believing in God. My dad would just daily put God down and just be like, not put God down. He'd just be like, if he see anything with religion, he'd be like, it's so ridiculous. These people are like primitive natives, praying to something that doesn't even exist. So for me to tiptoe around that, like, oh, like, yeah. How was it for you? Sorry.
Yeah, I was very fortunate in that my mom was somewhat religious enough that she could get into the choir and sing in the choir at church.
Nice.
So I went to church school as a kid, and I came home the first day and I said, "Mommy, I don't believe it. I think it's a fairy tale." And she said, "Okay." Like my mom was great about this stuff. She's like, "You committed for this year, finish out the year, and if you don't like it anymore, then you don't have to go, and you can just come when mommy has a solo." Because my mom was a professional singer.
Ah,
So that's kind of how religion was for me, right? I went on Christmas, Easter when mom had a solo, and that was about it. My dad was an atheist. So I wasn't really raised with religion. And then when I was 19, I was in college and I took an introduction to Hinduism class, and I didn't even know what Hinduism was, but it fit my schedule. And I
coincidence.
know. Oh, this was one of this is my first spiritual experience of my life.
Oh, I love that.
It was my first class. I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, whatever. And the teacher puts up a picture of like the Hindu Trinity, right? The three faces of God.
Mhm.
And I literally, like, my entire body cracked open, like my
No.
soul from inside, right? I just cracked open and had this like white light, burning bush spiritual
No.
experience right there in my Hinduism 101 class. And I'm like,
Get out of here.
what is happening to me right now? I mean, I just had this, it was like this deep, deep inner knowing. So I was like, well, that was crazy. And what's this Hinduism thing? I want to know everything. So as God works, as our higher power works, I was working in a bar, which is the best job if you're an alcoholic.
Yeah, I did those. I worked at the best bars, the funnest bars, and did shots with all my customers.
So fun. So fun.
Yeah.
And I meet this woman who would come in and not even drink. And so anyway, I mean, I befriend this woman, and she's like, what are you doing this weekend? She's like, I'm going to this ashram. You should come. And I'm like, what's an ashram? And she's like, well, it's this spiritual teacher. She teaches Hinduism. And I was like, that sounds good, right? Like, I'll go, right? Why not? I try something new. So I
Sure.
go with her to this ashram, and I'm like, oh my God, there's the same gods that I saw in my class, right? Like, oh my God. So I become a devotee of Guru Mai Chivilsananda, who's kind of retired now, but she was the same guru that Elizabeth Gilbert writes about in Eat, Pray, Love.
Interesting.
So it is the same guru that Elizabeth Gilbert, when she goes to the pray part where she goes to the ashram, she was at her in ashram in India. But I was actually hanging out at the ashram in upstate New York at the same time, and with Elizabeth Gilbert and a bunch of
Oh,
other
wow.
celebrities at the time. Yeah, it was sort of funny when I read Eat, Pray, Love. I was like, wait,
Wait a minute. Yeah.
there are not many
That's
female gurus. So I just sort of leaned into that. I just had this inner knowing, like that was sort of the path for me. So I learned a lot about the, Shakti based, belief system. And so I really leaned into that all through college. But when when I got out of college and started in the real world and got married
just
for
sort
the
of
first
forgot about it.
time,
Yeah.
yeah, you're like, it's hard. And people on this who are listening and who are bhakti people, or, even like bhakti adjacent, which is what I call myself, they'll understand this. Like, it's hard to be like the white Hindu chick.
It is.
right?
Mm.
Especially if you live in Texas, right? I mean, even in Austin, there was, there was temples and I would go, but it wasn't like I never found a home.
Yeah,
And
well,
like,
temples don't, temples don't speak to everyone. It's a whole different thing. A
yeah,
temple is so different from, just because you're
yeah.
a bhakti yogi, it has nothing to do with the institutions of, where most temples belong to. So it's got a whole nother mood, a whole nother feeling to it. And I totally, I've never been comfortable in most temples. Um, one of the first time that I went to a temple, it was one of the worst experiences I've had. I was just like, what the heck is this, But it's neither here nor there. God is God and nobody owns him. It doesn't just live in a temple.
Right, right. But it's hard. I didn't have any, I didn't really have any community. The community that I had been, with in college had kind of gone through some of its own drama, and I won't go into that, but and had kind of fallen apart. And so that wasn't really like a community that I could be part of. So I kind of just, it was like in the back of my mind, but something that I never really worked on. So when I got sober, I was very fortunate that I had a sense of a higher power, right? I knew what it was to
It's
me.
good.
Here's where the difference happened. The difference from the pre-sober me and my higher power and the post-sober me and my higher power was I realized that God is there to have a relationship with. God is a friend. And I think this is one of the things that I love about Bhakti is it's that idea of a personal relationship with God.
Yeah.
And I never really understood it. I think because I had enough Christianity in the background that it was a two-way conversation.
Right. I get that. It's not personable. It might be a personal God, but it's not personable. And I think that's like, that's why I also love Bhakti, when you can look at, at God as a friend, as a lover, as a partner, as a father, as a mother,
Yeah.
Or
father, or the father, or all those things. And that's what I love about Hinduism is that it allows us to see God from lots of different perspectives, right? That it doesn't have to be just this. It doesn't have to be just
Totally.
males, we have females, we have babies, we have, blue people, we have black people, we have white people, right? We have people in all different, they're all different shapes and sizes and genders and, non-genders and all.
Isn't it great?
It's great because you can find one that works for you, right? And so
Absolutely.
once I got into the program, I really leaned on creating a personal relationship with God. I did that through a lot of journaling and just asking for help. Like, what should I be doing? And I feel like now my life is so much more, yes, there's radical honesty and all of that. The reason why there's radical honesty is because if you don't have radical honesty, then your channel is not open to receiving your messages from God. And so my job is to stay sober emotionally and physically so that I can have the deepest relationship with God, who ultimately is able to guide what I'm supposed to be doing in this life, right? He, she, it, whatever, right? For me, it's she knows my Dharma. I don't, I'm not that smart, right? And so if I'm being a jerk and not really living to be who I am, if I'm surrounding my life with lots of bad karma, right? Which is like things I need to make amends for, right? It's the same thing. Then I'm not going to have that channel and I'm not going to be able to fully fulfill my Dharma. And so to me, that's how I look at it.
And it sounds, that's a really beautiful way of looking at it because it sounds so reciprocal, which means you're doing the work and then you're accepting God's work in your life, which means, like you wouldn't have your sobriety if you didn't have God, and you wouldn't have God if you didn't have your sobriety. It's so reciprocal. It's so intertwining. And so like yeah, that's what I hear. And it's a very nice, beautiful way to explain that.
And I think it's a lot like, I'm a mom of a teenager, and I can ask him 100 times to do the dishes, but at the end of the day, he has to do the dishes, right? If he wants his allowance, he needs to do the dishes. And I feel like that with God sometimes, like, I'm the petulant teenager and God's like, okay, over here, putting this person in your life so that you can realize you're supposed to go over here. But I have to do the dishes, right? God's going to say, dishes are
Absolutely.
here.
That's
You're-
right. Gotta move mountains. We gotta bring a shovel, and that's it. It's so
Yeah.
simple.
And you got to shovel the shit. And
Yeah, you
sometimes it's
do
your
that.
own
We gotta
shit.
shovel this shit. You gotta shovel this shit, and there's a lot of it. And we don't have to shovel our shit. We have to shovel the shit from our parents and from their parents and everyone else. I told this to my daughter once. She was like, "You did this to me, and you did that to me," and she's in recovery. Thank God, I love my daughter in recovery. I love her out of recovery, but I love her. Just love her. But she told me once. She said, we were talking about how generational garbage is passed from generation to generation. And I told her, one day, Kaya, her name is Kaya. I said, one day, Kaya, you're going to realize that when you walk out that door and there's that big pile of shit in front of your door and it stinks and it's horrible, and you realize that maybe 90% of that shit is not even yours. And you're going to go by it every day and you're going to get pissed and you're going to be like, they better come and clean it up. It's not my mess, it's their mess. And you're going to complain about it and you're going to walk by it every single day. The fact is, Kaya, if you want that shit gone, you got to pick up a damn shovel and shovel it away, just like I did, and just like your children are going to have to do with you. And that's a fact. And I can help her shovel the shit by doing my part, which means keeping my sobriety, keeping my recovery, keeping my connection, making amends, living amends. I'm not saying sorry, making amends, changing my behavior. And those are the things I think that recovery and any kind of spiritual process brings to the table, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of, humans are lazy. We just
Hell
are. We're
yeah.
selfish and lazy. And
Yeah.
I think
The
sometimes
easier,
what
softer
happens,
way out.
yeah, we want the easier, softer way, which sobriety is, but it does require work. And I think one of the things, the people that I see struggling in sobriety are the ones who are like, well, I'm just waiting for God to fix me. You're like, no, God doesn't fix you. You fix you. God will love you and support you, but God's just going to tell you to do the dishes. And you're the one who has to do them. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to do the things. And sometimes, it's not super clear what's going to, what you should be doing. And so you just do the next right thing. What's the next indicated action? What does my instinct say I should be doing? Right. Like you called me recently about something and about, that you wanted to chat about, and you were like, I don't even know why am I calling you? But you came to my mind and that was a God wink. And now here we are. And,
It's
I
so
feel
funny.
like
Yeah.
we have this incredible connection, but it's all just, it all came from probably a spark from the divine. And you're like, Sherry, what? Oh, okay. I'll call her. And you called and we have the, you know what I mean? And like, but that's what happens is, we get these little sparks and we're like, really? Really?
Yeah, it's funny,
All
isn't
right.
it? These
But you have
connections.
to make the phone call.
It's so, yeah, exactly. But I had to make the phone call and you helped me. I reached out to you and you helped me. And that's also what I've learned. And that's what we learn in recovery. We learn how to ask for help. Because I don't know about you, but I didn't like asking for help. Because usually if I did, I would be very disappointed and I didn't like the help. So it's like, help me, but not like that. No, not like that. Help me like this, like, no,
But that's
So,
back to the, I want you to make me feel better.
totally.
Right? If I'm willing to humble myself and say, I really don't know this and I need you to teach me, but I'm okay. When I start this interaction, I'm not coming into it with the expectation that you're going to make me feel better. I'm coming into it with the expectation that you're going to teach me something that I can use to further, fulfill my own destiny and to have an energetic exchange with you. It's a very different place than I'm in fear right now and I want you to fix it, which is often why we ask for help. Not because we actually need, we don't really need it, but we want someone else to fix it for us and we're lazy.
Yeah, that's true. But also we want to be inspired. I mean, there are people who I think like, okay, do you have to go soon? I know you have an appointment, right? Oh my gosh. That fun
I could
is
talk to you all
over.
day.
Yeah, I know the fun's over. Let's do it again. Do you want to do it again? Again?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay, let's do it again. Let me give you a minute now to just talk a little bit about your business, because I think a lot of people can totally benefit from you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so
You're
I'm
welcome.
a business coach for people who are the front of their brand and know that they have a superpower that the world needs, but don't know how to show up in a way that's authentic and doesn't feel dorky, and that they don't need to spend all their time and all their money on marketing. Because so many of us have this incredible gift. And we know we want to put it out there and we're like, oh God, what does that look like? And it's so overwhelming to build a business and to market your business. And so I just help them put together like a real clear path of like, how am I going to show up? What am I going to say? Who am I talking to? And then where am I going to do it? Is it on social media? Am I going to do a podcast? Am I going to do this? And then, just kind of holding your hand and walking alongside of you while you create your business and helping to guide you along the way on what are the activities that you should do that are going to get you the most impact for the least amount of time and effort.
Fantastic. That was
Yeah.
good. That was an elevator pitch, girl.
I know that was
That-
nicely done. I've been working on my elevator pitch. That came out nicely.
That's a-
So I'm going to
that
have to
was a
send that to
good
my
one.
copywriter.
That was a good one. Okay, Sherry, my love, this was so nice. I want to squeeze some more of your that sounds a bit sexual. I didn't want to
Yeah, baby.
I want to squeeze a little
game.
much of your nectar. That's not really what I meant, but you know what I mean.
Dude, that's the best part of my day right now is you telling me you want to squeeze my nectar. Like I'm good. I'm done. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm done for the day.
All right, my darling. Thanks again. We'll have Sherry. Where can people find you?
They can find me. I just took a screenshot. They can find me at sherrysutton.com. So SherrySutton.com. I'm Sherry Sutton Marketing Mentor on Instagram and all the other social places.
Fantastic. You guys have a great day. We love you, and Haribo. Bye.
Haribo.
This concludes another episode. Thanks for listening. In order for me to serve this community to the best of my ability, I welcome feedback. Please write your feedback at bhaktirecoverypodcast@gmail.com. That's bhaktirecoverypodcast@gmail.com. Also, please don't forget to follow and give us a 5-star rating. Share this with family and friends. If you'd like to join our Bhakti Recovery community or just find out what we're all about, please visit our website at www.bhaktirecoverygroup.com. That's www.bhaktirecoverygroup.com. There are no dues or fees, and we meet daily. If you or someone you know is struggling with addictions and/or associated behaviors, you will find links in our show notes to various 12-step programs. Nobody seeking recovery need ever be alone again.
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज.
The miseries of material existence and the most hopeless conditions of life is the best possible opportunity to turn to God.